Beloved of the Lord, this is not a coincidence, and this moment is not accidental. If your eyes landed on this before February 9, heaven is signaling that timing is working in your favor. Can you sense that urgency in your spirit right now? This is the kind of divine interruption that shifts seasons. So tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? Before this day fully unfolds, God is inviting you to align your mouth, your mind, and your morning with purpose. Have you noticed how small shifts early in the day create massive outcomes later? This prayer is not routine. It's a reset, and it's designed to recalibrate your authority. What are you believing God must change in your life right now? As you step into this Sunday, understand this. You were selected, not just comforted. You were chosen to rise, to speak, to move with clarity. Does that resonate with what you've been sensing lately? If this message is speaking to you, tap the like button as an act of agreement and let the algorithm know this word matters. God is positioning you ahead of deadlines, delays, and disappointments. Have you been feeling a pressure that now makes sense? Share this with someone who needs confirmation today. And tell me in the comments, what are you expecting God to do before February 9? Divine timing is not approaching you. You are already standing in it. And that truth alone should shift the way you breathe in this moment. Have you ever realized that you didn't arrive early or late, exactly when heaven calculated your arrival? What if the season you've been praying to enter is the very ground under your feet right now? And you've been asking for permission to move when authority has already been granted. Can you feel that? So many people keep waiting for a sign, a signal, or a sudden breakthrough, but divine timing doesn't always announce itself loudly. Have you noticed how God often moves quietly, positioning you before you even realize you've been positioned? What if the delay you complained about was actually divine alignment, working behind the scenes? Does that change how you interpret your past? When you understand that you're already standing in divine timing, you stop begging and you start declaring. Have you been praying from desperation instead of dominion? What if heaven has been waiting for you to recognize where you are so you can speak from authority instead of fear? Does that stretch your thinking? Divine timing means nothing is missing, nothing is broken, and nothing is late. Can you receive that without arguing with your past experiences? What if the tears, the setbacks, and the closed doors were not evidence of failure, but evidence of precision? Can you see that now? You don't step into divine timing by effort. You step into it by awareness. Are you aware that this very moment is loaded with potential? What if the only thing required for the shift you want is a change in your perception? Are you willing to adjust how you see today? When you believe divine timing is ahead of you, you live anxious, but when you realize you're standing in it, you live intentional. Can you feel the difference between those two mindsets? What would change if you treated today like it mattered just as much as tomorrow? There are conversations you're having now that will shape your next season. Are you paying attention to who God has placed around you? What if the instructions you've been asking for are coming through ordinary moments and familiar voices? Are you listening closely enough? Divine timing also means that heaven trusted you with this moment. Have you ever considered that being here now means you were deemed ready? What if readiness wasn't about perfection, but about positioning? Can you accept that responsibility? You don't have to chase what is already aligned with you. Have you been exhausting yourself trying to force doors that require authority, not effort? What if rest is part of recognizing divine timing? Does that challenge the way you've been striving? When you stand in divine timing, resistance doesn't mean denial. It means refinement. Have you been mislabeling resistance as rejection? What if the pressure you feel is shaping your capacity, not blocking your progress? Can you sit with that truth? Every day you wake up in divine timing, heaven expects movement. Are you moving with intention or just surviving the hours? What would happen if you spoke to this day as if it were a partner in your purpose? Divine timing demands alignment of words, thoughts, and actions. Are your words agreeing with where God has placed you? What if what you speak today determines what you're allowed to access tomorrow? Does that make you more conscious of your mouth? You are not waiting for God to show up. God is waiting for you to recognize where you are. Does that realization shift your posture? What if acknowledgement is the key that unlocks momentum? Being in divine timing means grace is already assigned to this season. Have you been overlooking the grace because you were focused on the gaps? What if the strength you need is already present, waiting for you to lean into it? This moment carries authority, access, and acceleration. Are you treating it casually or honoring it intentionally? What would change if you fully embraced the idea that today is strategic and not ordinary? Divine timing means heaven synchronized this moment with your capacity. Do you trust that you are equipped for what is required now? What if doubt is the only thing trying to disqualify you from what God has already approved? Are standing in the intersection of preparation and promise? Can you feel how close alignment really is? What if obedience right now matters more than clarity about the future? Are you willing to move anyway? When you recognize divine timing, your prayers shift from when to how. Have you noticed that change happening in you? What if God is more interested in how you steward this moment than when the next one arrives? This morning is a gate, and how you walk through it will determine the tone, the texture, and the authority of your entire week. Did you realize that mornings are not neutral? They are directional. What you permit in the first moments of your day often becomes the permission slip for everything that follows. So how did you enter this morning? A gate is a place of transition, a point where decisions are made and outcomes are authorized. Have you been treating your mornings casually instead of intentionally? What if the atmosphere you set before breakfast becomes the climate you live in all week long? Does that shift how valuable this moment feels? Many people wake up and immediately react, but reaction is a poor gatekeeper. Have you noticed how reacting early steals your power later? What if this morning is inviting you to respond with purpose instead of reacting to pressure? Are you open to that shift? The words you speak in the morning don't just describe your day, they legislate it. What have you already said today that your week is now trying to obey? If your mouth is a key, are you unlocking strength or unlocking struggle before the day even settles? This gate called morning determines whether peace or panic takes the lead. Did you wake up checking problems or claiming promises? What if 5 minutes of alignment could save you 5 days of unnecessary warfare? Would you be willing to guard this gate more carefully? Your emotions often try to rush the gate before your authority arrives. Have you allowed feelings to speak before faith had a chance? What if you paused long enough to declare who you are before listening to what you feel? How would that change your posture? Every morning carries fresh mercy, but mercy still needs management. Are you stewarding what was released to you at dawn? What if mercy is wasted when the gate is left unguarded? Does that challenge how you approach early hours? This morning is deciding what you tolerate all week. Have you unknowingly agreed with stress, fear, or distraction before noon? What if agreement is more powerful than circumstances? Are you paying attention to what you're agreeing with? A gate sets boundaries, and boundaries protect purpose? Have you drawn lines around your mornings, or do you let anything rush in? What if saying no early gives you authority to say yes later? Does that reframe discipline for you? When you rush the morning, you often drag chaos into the day. Have you been mistaking business for productivity? What if slowing down at the gate actually accelerates your outcomes? Are you willing to try a different rhythm? This morning is where focus is assigned. Did you wake up scattered or centered? What if clarity is less about having answers and more about establishing order at the gate? Can you sense that distinction? Your spirit is most receptive before the noise takes over. Have you been feeding it or ignoring it at this crucial time? What if nourishment in the morning determines your resilience by midweek? Does that connect some dots for you? This gate also determines your conversations. Have you noticed how your tone early on shapes how you speak to others later? What if alignment before interaction protects relationships throughout the week? Would that matter to you? When you cross this gate intentionally, you carry authority into meetings, decisions, and challenges. Are you entering your week empowered or depleted? What if power is not something you find later, but something you activate now? Can you receive that? The enemy loves unattended gates. Have you left your mornings unguarded and wondered why the week feels heavy? What if resistance increases because this gate holds influence? Does that explain the struggle you've felt? This morning decides whether faith or fear leads the week. Who took the first word today? What if the first voice you listen to becomes the loudest one you follow? Are you choosing wisely? A gate is also where identity is reinforced. Did you wake up remembering who you are or negotiating your worth? What if identity declared in the morning stabilizes confidence all week long? Does that resonate with your experience? You don't need a perfect morning. You need a positioned one. Have you been disqualifying yourself because mornings feel messy? What if alignment works even in imperfection? Can you let go of unrealistic expectations? This morning is as a spiritual checkpoint. Did you pass through it consciously or on autopilot? What if awareness alone begins to restore what stress has been draining? Are you sensing that shift already? When you honor this gate, the week responds differently. Have you noticed how some weeks flow and others fight you? What if the difference was never the workload, but how you entered the first day? This gate is not demanding hours, it's asking for intention. Can you give God the first part without overcomplicating it? What if consistency matters more than length? Does that relieve some pressure? This morning is deciding what multiplies. Did you plant peace or pressure at the gate? What if seeds sound early, grow quietly, but powerfully throughout the week? Are you ready to plant wisely? Every week listens to how Sunday or Monday is framed. Are you framing it with faith or fatigue? What if expectation becomes the invitation for favor? Can you feel that invitation now? This gate is where alignment becomes authority. Are you stepping through it aware of the power you carry? What if honoring this morning changes not just this week, but the pattern of your life? Being chosen is not about being favored for comfort. It is about being trusted with authority, and that truth alone should mature how you see your calling. Have you ever considered that selection comes with responsibility, not applause? What if being chosen means heaven believes you can handle weight, not just blessings? Many people celebrate being chosen, but resist being accountable. Have you noticed how excitement fades when responsibility shows up? What if God didn't choose you because you were loud, visible, or impressive, but because you were dependable in unseen moments? Does that shift how you interpret your journey? Authority is never given for ego. It is given for stewardship. Are you stewarding influence or just enjoying attention? What if the reason pressure has increased is because your authority has expanded? Can you recognize that without shrinking back? When you are chosen, heaven expects you to govern situations, not complain about them. Have you been asking God to fix what He empowered you to address? What if prayer is not about escape, but about enforcement? Does that stretch your understanding? Authority requires alignment before action. Are your thoughts, words, and decisions agreeing with your assignment? What if inconsistency weakens authority? Are you willing to bring order to areas you've ignored? Being chosen means people are affected by how you show up. Have you realized that your obedience or disobedience impacts more than just you? What if your authority is meant to create safety, clarity, and direction for others? Are you honoring that reach? You don't grow into authority by title. You grow into it by discipline. Have you been waiting for recognition instead of refining your character? What if private obedience is what qualifies you for public authority? Can you receive that truth? Authority often feels heavy before it feels natural. Have you been misinterpreting weight as weakness? What if the burden you feel is evidence that you are carrying something meaningful? Does that reframe your struggle? When God chooses someone, He expects them to speak differently. Are your words reinforcing chaos or commanding order? What if silence in moments of disorder is a misuse of authority? Are you bold enough to speak? Authority does not shout, it stands. Have you noticed how true authority doesn't need to prove itself? What if confidence grows when you stop explaining yourself and start enforcing boundaries? Can you sense that shift? Being chosen means you are watched, even when you don't realize it. Does that awareness influence how you live? What if consistency is part of honoring the authority you've been entrusted with? Authority requires restraint as much as action. Have you learned when not to respond? What if wisdom is knowing which battles require your voice and which require your silence? Are you discerning that difference? You are not chosen to blend in. You are chosen to stabilize environments. Have you been minimizing yourself to stay comfortable? What if your presence is meant to change atmospheres? Are you allowing it to? When authority is misunderstood, it can feel isolating. Have you ever felt lonely in leadership moments? What if separation is sometimes the cost of stewardship? Can you accept that without resentment? Authority matures through obedience under pressure. How do you respond when things don't move quickly? What if delays are training grounds for governance? Are you learning or resisting? Being chosen also means correction comes quicker. Have you noticed that accountability feels sharper? What if correction is proof of trust, not rejection? Does that change how you receive it? Authority requires clarity of identity. Do you know who you are without affirmation? What if insecurity weakens authority faster than opposition? Are you guarding your identity carefully? You are not authorized to dominate people, but to dominate fear, confusion, and limitation. Are you using your authority in the right direction? What if misuse of authority drains you instead of empowering you? Does that resonate? Being chosen means heaven expects maturity in conflict. How do you respond when misunderstood? What if emotional regulation is part of spiritual authority? Are you developing that muscle? Authority grows when you stop seeking validation. Have you noticed how freedom increases when approval loses control over you? What if confidence comes from alignment, not applause? Can you feel that settling in? You don't need permission from people to walk in what God authorized. Have you been waiting for affirmation that already came from heaven? What if hesitation is the only thing delaying impact? Are you ready to move? Being chosen means responsibility for outcomes. Are you owning your influence or avoiding it? What if leadership begins the moment you stop blaming circumstances? Can you accept that weight? Authority requires courage to stand when others retreat. Have you been tempted to shrink back? What if boldness is simply obedience without negotiation? Does that simplify things? You are chosen to enforce peace, establish order, and model consistency. Are you willing to be that person even when it costs comfort? What if your yes carries more weight than you realize? Are you honoring it? Authority is activated when you stop doubting why you were chosen. Have you been questioning what God already confirmed? What if trust in your calling unlocks clarity in your actions? Can you step into that confidence now? What you speak today has permission to shape what manifests tomorrow, and that should immediately make you aware of the weight your words carry. Have you ever noticed how outcomes often follow language before they follow action? What if your future has been listening to you more closely than you realized? Words are not just sounds, they are signals. What signals have you been releasing into your life lately? If your mouth is issuing instructions, are those instructions aligned with where you say you want to go? Many people pray for change, but speak against it daily. Have you ever caught yourself canceling your own prayers with casual conversation? What if agreement matters more than intention? Does that challenge how lightly you've treated your words? Your words create frameworks that tomorrow must operate within. Are you building structure or limitation with what you say today? What if fear spoken casually becomes a blueprint for delay? Are you willing to shift your language? Speech is a form of permission. Have you been authorizing peace or chaos? What if heaven responds to consistency of language, not occasional declarations? Does that change how intentional you become? You don't need louder words. You need aligned words. Are your declarations matching your discipline? What if authority is diluted when words and actions disagree? Can you feel that tension? Every time you speak, you are planting something. What kind of harvest are your words preparing? If tomorrow reflects what you said today, are you comfortable with what you've been sowing? Your inner dialogue counts just as much as your public one. How do you talk to yourself when no one else is listening? What if self-talk is shaping outcomes more than external opposition? Does that resonate with you? Faith-filled words don't deny reality, they redefine it. Have you been naming problems more than naming promises? What if naming is a form of ownership? Are you owning the right things? When you speak with authority, circumstances adjust. Have you been waiting for conditions to change before changing your language? What if your words are meant to go first? Can you trust that order? Words spoken in alignment carry endurance. Are your declarations consistent or emotional? What if stability in speech produces stability in results? Does that explain some patterns you've seen? You cannot complain your way into manifestation. Have you noticed how complaint feels relieving but produces nothing? What if discipline of speech is the gateway to acceleration? Are you willing to practice restraint? Your words either reinforce fear or dismantle it. What role has your mouth been playing? What if fear only survives because it keeps getting fed verbally? Are you ready to starve it? Heaven honors language that agrees with purpose. Are your words aligned with your assignment or just your mood? What if maturity is revealed by what you refuse to say? Does that stretch you? You don't have to announce everything you're believing. Do you know when to speak and when to stay silent? What if timing in speech is as powerful as content? Are you discerning that balance? Words spoken early set trajectories. What did you say about today before it even started? What if mornings are legislated by the first few words you release? Does that make you more aware? Your mouth can shorten journeys or extend them. Have you been elongating processes without realizing it? What if frustration spoken prolongs cycles? Are you ready to close some loops? Words carry authority when they come from identity. Do you know who you are when you speak? What if insecurity weakens declarations? Are you guarding your identity carefully? You don't speak to convince God. You speak to govern atmosphere. Have you been misunderstanding the purpose of declaration? What if speech is about alignment, not persuasion? Does that simplify prayer? Every promise requires verbal agreement. Have you been silent where agreement was needed? What if silence is not humility but hesitation? Are you recognizing that? Your future listens for permission before it appears. What permissions have you been granting? What if alignment of speech accelerates manifestation? Can you feel that responsibility settling in? You are not powerless over outcomes when your mouth is active. Have you been underestimating your influence? What if words are the bridge between prayer and manifestation? Does that clarify the process? Speech creates memory in the spirit. Are you repeating narratives that no longer serve you? What if breaking cycles begins with changing language? Are you ready to let old phrases go? Your words should reflect where you're going, not where you've been. Have you updated your language to match your destination? What if growth requires new vocabulary? Can you embrace that shift? You don't have to see it to speak it. Have you been waiting for evidence before agreement? What if faith speaks first and sees later? Are you willing to trust that order? Every declaration is a seed with an appointment. Kind of appointments are you scheduling with your words today? What if consistency in speech is the key you've been overlooking? Your words are shaping environments you haven't entered yet. Are you preparing them well? What if tomorrow responds differently because you spoke differently today? Can you commit to that awareness now? Obedience in this moment accelerates what was scheduled for later, and that truth should immediately shift how you see small instructions. Have you been overlooking simple acts because they didn't feel dramatic enough? What if the breakthrough you want is attached to something God already asked you to do? Acceleration is rarely loud. It often happens quietly through alignment. Have you noticed how momentum increases when you stop resisting what feels inconvenient? What if delay is not about timing, but about hesitation? Does that possibility challenge you? Obedience is not about understanding everything. It's about trusting enough to move. Have you been waiting for clarity when God is asking for compliance? What if clarity comes after obedience, not before? Are you willing to step without all the answers? Many people pray for speed but negotiate instructions. Have you ever wondered why things feel slower than promised? What if partial obedience slows what full obedience would accelerate? Can you be honest with yourself about that? This moment is carrying leverage. Are you treating it like it matters or like it can wait? What if later is waiting on now? Does that make this moment feel heavier? God often hides acceleration inside ordinary decisions. Have you been dismissing routine as irrelevant? What if consistency is the vehicle God uses to move you faster? Can you receive that? Obedience creates spiritual shortcuts. Have you been taking scenic routes because obedience felt uncomfortable? What if surrender shortens journeys? Are you ready to choose the faster path? Acceleration does not mean chaos. It means alignment. Are you aligned or just busy? What if movement without obedience only creates exhaustion? Does that explain how you've been feeling? When God gives an instruction, it is already sensed with timing. Have you been questioning the instruction instead of trusting the timing? What if obedience plugs you directly into divine scheduling? Can you see that connection? Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Does that statement make you uncomfortable? What if comfort is the very thing slowing your progress? Are you brave enough to confront that? Acceleration often looks like restraint. Have you noticed that sometimes God asks you to stop instead of rush? What if obedience to pause saves you from detours? Does that resonate with your recent experiences? Every instruction carries momentum. Are you discerning which ones matter most right now? What if the instruction you're avoiding is the one carrying acceleration? Are you willing to revisit it? God doesn't accelerate confusion. He accelerates alignment. Are your decisions aligned with His direction? What if obedience simplifies what effort complicated? Can you imagine that relief? Obedience sharpens spiritual sensitivity. Have you noticed how clarity increases when you say yes quickly? What if hesitation dulls perception? Are you willing to practice faster agreement? Acceleration is a reward for trust. Do you trust God enough to obey without guarantees? What if faith is proven